you for joining us. I am Tamara Scott. Glad you could tune in with us. I hope it's a sunny day where you are. It's not so sunny where I am today, but as long as you have the love of Jesus in your heart, the sun should always be shining. How's that for a little upper? We appreciate you tuning in with us at Truth for Our Time, where we help you live God's Word in today's world. And we help you when the headlines hit home. And today joining us in the show is going to be John Pudner. John Pudner with takeback.org. Takeback.org, or the name of the group is called Take Back Our Republic. I met him briefly last week while I was out at the RNC meeting and just invited him to come on the show talking about foreign money in American elections. And what do you think about that? I mean, what's your first thought of that? And so we'll be asking him several questions. Chris, I see your note. I gave you a piece of paper in there on the counter. We're contacting John as we speak. John, if you're listening and you want to go ahead and call in, please go ahead and call in. But we're trying to call the phone number that we have on the email for you. And I'll go ahead and look at that while I'm doing this. And I don't have a bunch of things that I usually want to talk to you, but I don't have them pulled up because I wanted to spend the hour talking with John on a variety of these topics. So I don't have some of those things. But I will tell you this. Here we are in Iowa, and we are so blessed in this state to have one right here in central Iowa, one of the largest cities in Des Moines, a great police force. We've talked about them. We've had them on the show. And as you all know, just a short time ago, 2 officers were killed in travel, commuting with an inmate. And during that time, a very young chief who had not been in his position much over a year was expected to deal with the travesty of loss of 2 officers, and he did so well. He did so incredibly well. The messages he gave at both of the funerals were so gracious, and you could tell he's very connected with his police officers, and he cared for the families, and he touched everyone there. And so this past week we had a shooting here in Des Moines. A young man. I don't even have the details. I can't tell you names. I can't tell you what happened other than what I've just learned recently, and I'm not going to just talk about it on air. But we had a call from the school asking for help just to deal with the students and some issues the kids may be facing. It was a rather large family, and some of the kids were actually at school today. I went. Yours truly got my hide out of bed early and trekked into the school, about a 45-minute drive from me. I was there about 7 o'clock and greeted these kids when they walked in the school, saw the environment of the school today. You know, we deal with a lot of school-related issues on this show, and I'm not always very nice about the government schools. And notice I don't call them public schools anymore. I do call them government schools. But I'll tell you what, there are a lot of great teachers there doing what they can to help these students, to help them cope, to help them get to class when kids are sitting on the floor and don't want to get to class. And their hands are tied. But I bring this up because while I was leaving, who did I run into but our police chief? Chief Wingert had taken a moment out. He heard, he was at the meeting yesterday with this group of pastors. You are good. Chris just popped his photo up on the video for those of you who are watching online, and I gave you no warning that was coming. You impressed me. Chief Wingert just happened, he came. He said, I heard he was at the meeting when we were discussing this. Some of us meet as pastors and minorities and the police department and the education leaders to see how we can help this community. We quietly don't draw attention to it. He heard the call go out, and he said, I can drive by. And he came by. He just came by to see what was going on, to see how he could help. I'm telling you, when we have a heart of a leader, a servant's heart in our leader, it's amazing to see, and we are very blessed. So I'm asking you out there as Truth for Our Time listeners today, will you please keep in prayer your police chief, your police force, the principals, teachers in your schools. Ask for their safety, wisdom, direction, protection, and the heart, that they would just be the heart that would minister to those they serve. I was blessed. I was glad I got up to go see it. And if you are anywhere close to either a public school, a government school as I call them, but a local public school in your neighborhood, The VA hospital is one more chance where we've told you you have an opportunity to volunteer. I'm asking you to consider doing it. We all want change. You hear the saying, be the change you want. I'm asking you, how can you make a difference? I see John is on the phone. John is the executive director with Take Back Our Republic. John, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I'm excited about this. Now, we're going to be talking about foreign money in U.S. elections, and I admitted to you when I met you, this is not a subject in which I have a great depth of knowledge, but, like most, should probably learn some more. So tell us first, what is Take Back Our Republic?
Sure. We are formed as a nonprofit. We were a bunch of people who had run conservative political campaigns for years and started to get very concerned about some of the way rules are being broken, or simply there aren't rules in place that would stop things like foreign money coming into our elections. So we decided to turn our focus from actual candidate work to a nonprofit effort to change policy and stop some of these things that are just going to erode our whole system if they aren't held in check.
And so how can you even tell if money is foreign or where the money's? How do you even know?
Sure. That's one of the biggest problems. A practice that started in 2008 for the first time, and it was President Obama's campaign that did it, but there have been copycats, including some Republicans, is for the first time someone could go online and make a contribution without their credit card information being verified. This is something that you actually have to tell your bank not to verify the information, because any merchant wants to know it's really you using your card. And the door that this has opened is scary, because think about it. You can go in with a prepaid card. You could load it up with $1 million if you wanted, make a bunch of $200 contributions to be below the reporting threshold, and the money goes completely undetected. It's the modern bags of money. In the old days, at least, you had to actually drop off a bag of money, and you might get caught. And the problem is, with this being done electronically and completely unverified, you can do it from anywhere in the world with no detection. So we, luckily, some of the congressmen, including Congressman Gosar out of Arizona, one of the most conservative members of the Freedom Caucus, put in a bill which now has 50 co-sponsors to stop this practice, and it's a very simple stop.
Okay.
Very easy to fix.
And you say, who is that, Congressman who?
Gosar, Paul Gosar out of Arizona, who's one of the more conservative members in the Freedom Caucus, was the one who put it in. But I will say, to others' credit, the first 20 or 25 signers were very conservative members, but certainly there have been other Republicans from across the spectrum, and just recently we've had a couple of Democrats sign on to the bill, too. So I think it's such common sense that we shouldn't be allowing foreign money, shouldn't give it such an easy avenue to come in undisclosed, so no one even knows who's giving, that luckily we're starting to get a little broader support for the measure.
Okay, and so just for my clarification, is this H.R. 4177?
That is correct. You've got it.
H.R. 4177, and that's Stop Foreign Donations Affecting Our Elections Act. And the number, we always give it to you, our listeners. You should have it on your refrigerator by now. You should keep it in your cell phone, however you want to do it. It's the easiest way to contact your legislators, whether the senators, the congressional members, it doesn't seem to matter. This is a great way for you to do it. 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. And we'll come back to that as well, but that would be your action item that we'll ask you to do. Call and ask them to support this legislation. Now, we want to get into exactly what it does, and we want to get into why. And so I want to also, John, just in fairness, I know you've worked with several campaigns. Are there any campaigns or candidates you're working with right now so that people could say you have a vested interest in you're trying to start or stop something?
Yeah, no, we actually made the decision to run this nonprofit full-time and therefore not work on any campaigns anymore for just the reason you're talking about. I didn't want this to look like I was trying to help one candidate against another, whether within the primary or general. So we are purely a nonprofit, nonpartisan at this point, conservative, but we have to be nonpartisan as well as nonprofit.
And so I'm just meeting John along with all of you. He was kind enough, through a mutual friend, to give me a lift to the airport last week in Florida. I so appreciated that. Thank you so much. And so for our listeners, let's go through a couple of these things. Free speech. Is this is this going to interfere with free speech? It's my money. I've earned it. I ought to be able to do what I please.
Sure. Yeah, I think there are a couple angles on that. The first distinction I'd like to make on free speech is, I think everyone wants to protect free speech for ideological giving, and conservative, or I don't care if you're liberal, I mean, whoever gives, that should be protected. The distinction here is we're talking about undisclosed money, and any foreign money in this is actually breaking the law. It's just that there's no way to detect it if it comes in this way. And so one thing that would happen is if the bank at least had to verify that this was a legitimate credit card associated with an American, then that contribution could be processed. As a matter of fact, that still would not be disclosed. A little difference here between disclosure and verification. It would just be, yes, okay, this is an American's Visa card. We will, therefore, they can process this $200. And what this says is they cannot do it if they can't verify. And as a matter of fact, this is how the banks want to do things anyway. It's how they do it with any other purchase. It's actually candidates that are opting out of the bank's normal procedure. So I don't see how this bill, and there's certainly other issues we could talk about regarding free speech on other things we're talking about, but as far as this particular bill, I don't see how anyone could say that had any impediment on free speech, unless you're talking free speech of someone overseas trying to impact our elections, and I'd argue that's a whole different story.
Okay, and there's so many things for me not knowing. I admitted that I don't know a lot about this topic, but already I have 1,000 questions I want to ask you, going down several different trails here. And so, folks, if you're listening, I want you to understand, you may be thinking this is all about campaign finance. It doesn't interest me. I've heard too much about the campaigns. I'm already tired. I'm telling you, please listen, because you need to understand what you're up against. When you get so frustrated, you feel like you go and vote and your vote doesn't matter. This could be one of the reasons why. And so I want you to understand, learn along with me what we're dealing with here. Let's go back to the foreign money. Does this impact, like I know we have a group called Republicans Overseas. These are Americans who happen to be living abroad either because of working, or maybe they're even diplomatic for all I know. I don't know what all the criteria are, but there are several folks living in other countries. Would this impact their ability to give to candidates?
No, there is we checked first on that to see just technically if there was any issue. There is a simple verification process that we've been assured by all the bank processors works fine for someone overseas. They verify and check that they are an American citizen, or even a green card holder can actually give to. What this stops is someone getting a prepaid credit card that's not, or a gift card that's not associated with any person. They're just buying up and putting a bunch on it and never having a name on it, and then putting any name and number they want in. It can be Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, 1,000,000 times if they want, and there's no check on that. So this would not affect anyone overseas, American from giving, and as a matter of fact, would not even disclose their name if this were a $200 under contribution, but it would verify that it was really coming from them.
Okay, so let's go back to this prepaid card. I think you said an amount. Are you telling me there's no amount they could put on these cards?
Yes, basically, any bank merchant can sell cards for however much they want. So whether you could actually get someone to put $1 million on a prepaid card, or you bought 1,000,000 prepaid credit cards, you can buy prepaid cards for as much money as you want. This is obviously assuming someone has the money overseas. Let's just say you had a bad actor who hated America for whatever reason, or for that matter, a country. Pick China.
Okay, but he's here. George Soros already lives here, so let's talk about somebody else.
Sure.
Should I not have said that? Sorry, just joking.
Yeah, well, but you do make a good point there, and I won't pick him out directly, although certainly in past campaigns used to beat him up a lot. But take gambling interests, or anyone who wanted to funnel money in, without being recognized. This is a very easy avenue for them. So I do focus on the foreign money, but in addition to running campaigns, in my campaign life, I ran several anti-gambling efforts. We stopped the lottery in Alabama and video poker and various things. And, the money that comes in behind gambling.
John, I'm going to hold you right there on the
Sure.
gambling, because we've got to go to a break. Listeners, I want you to stay tuned. You need to understand what you're dealing with, what you're competing against, your own vote, the big dollars coming in from foreign areas. Stay tuned. Truth for Our Time. Tamara Scott will be right back on 99.3.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I've purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
And thanks for staying tuned. You're listening to Tamara Scott, Truth for Our Time, where we help you live God's Word in today's world. Helping you when the headlines hit home. John Pudner, Pudner, is the Executive Director for TakeBack.org. Take Back Our Republic, takeback.org. And John, you had just mentioned the gambling dollars, and I want you to go into the gambling dollars, but I'm thinking this probably fits with what other interests are out there, foreign-wise or domestic or however it is. But go ahead and finish the point that you had just started before we went to break.
Sure. I think everyone has particular concern about foreign influence on elections, so I start with that. But this verification process, I mean, we want to make sure no one is sneaking money into the system without detection. And so, I went up against gambling interest in past battles where they were trying to put video poker into Alabama, and then a lottery at a different point. We defeated that in a ballot referenda. And it's just scary the amount of money they can put in when they come into an area. And so I just didn't want to limit it to foreign contributions.
Right.
All kinds of groups like this. We're certainly seeing the clout that the transgender push has had on corporations. Well, obviously they have First Amendment rights too, and if they want to push their issues, that's fine. But we don't want these avenues where money can be snuck around without detection. I mean, your voters have the right to know, okay, this group is giving. And you mentioned Soros, and so. Well, a conservative is normally not going to like him. Well, okay, maybe a liberal doesn't like the Koch brothers, and that's fine. As long as we, see the money that's moving around and we know who's trying to influence these things and who's putting pressure on companies, that gives the voter the right in a democracy to vote against that interest, and that's what we're striving for here.
And I come back to that card because I've read articles that the banks are now tracking when you pull out of your own banking account. What is it? I don't know what the limit is. At $5,000 or $10,000, if you pull a certain amount out of your own banking account, which is what get Hassard in trouble, I believe, that they track it. But you're telling me on these cards for giving, they don't track that?
Yes, that's the problem. These gift cards are set up so that they are not associated with someone. And, of course, a gift card is perfectly legitimate for many reasons. You want to give a friend of yours a birthday present. You're not sure what they like. You buy them a gift card. And that card's not tied to your name or their name. It's just purchased at a store. So, they're fine item at a small scale. The problem is that now that there's in the past, before '08, that card could not be used for political contributions because there was no way to verify who was giving it. So the problem is buying up a bunch of these cards, gets around all of this. And if you do that overseas or someplace, you completely get around the system, which is that no foreign dollars are allowed in campaigns in American elections.
So let me clarify for our listeners. I don't like the fact that the government can track how much you pull out of your account. I think it's your business to do with whatever you wish. But when we're giving to elections, I do have an issue. And I'm concerned, John, because the IRS, we know that they retaliated. Kathy, is it Albrecht, who started the True the Vote? We know that they retaliated against several conservatives who had given money. And so there's a little bit of concern for folks who don't want to be tracked. And I get that. So what's the rub? What's the measure in between there?
Sure. Very legitimate question. This one particular bill, again, does not even require disclosure, only verification that it's a valid card. So that does not give the information to anyone. That is the normal bank process. For example, if you were going to buy something online right now and you went and you accidentally typed your zip code wrong, you'd get a red box saying, "Oh, sorry, Tamara, you messed up." And you say, "Oh, gosh, I typed a 3 instead of a 2," and you fix it. And that's the only process we're saying. They need to use that same process. It's just an instant bounce to say, okay, yes, this is this person's credit card who says they're using it. Now that they've stripped that away just for political campaigns, and this is campaigns telling the bank not to do it, it's just an invitation to flood money in. So I know, and this is the real common question, it sounds like verification means the same thing as disclosure, and it doesn't. I mean, there are other disclosure issues we can talk about, but this part is just verifying. It doesn't create any new disclosure of who you are, what you're giving, only that this is really a card. You know the address that goes with your card.
And it's the candidates, not the banks, that are dragging their feet on this.
That's right. The
very candidates who are screaming at us and telling us they want transparency.
That's right. The banks want to do it this way. As a matter of fact, when President Obama's campaign in '08 was the first one to opt out in this way, the banks actually charged them a higher rate to do it this way because they don't like it because it invites fraud. And they went ahead and paid the higher percentage. And again, I don't want to pick on him because they may have had perfectly legitimate reasons for doing this. I'm just saying once they open that door, now we've got 100 members of Congress doing it. And there's Republicans too, so this isn't a partisan attack. But it just invites foreign and illicit money into the system.
Okay. I just brought up our candidates. Of our candidates, we're down to basically 4 or 5. 3 in the Republican race, 2 in the Democrat race. Of these candidates, is this why we see, and folks, I am not disclosing, I am not promoting any one candidate. So when I say this question, don't think I'm behind any one candidate. But we've seen a great rise for Trump, a great rise for Sanders. Is it because of, I think it's people who are just fed up with the system and they want somebody who's supposedly an outsider, which is not Bernie Sanders by any means. But something he's saying is resonating. And he tends to use this line of the no big corporate dollars. He seems to be anti-super PACs. Is he truly?
Well, and we likewise, want to be careful. Say we're not endorsing, just as you just said too, or trying to hurt or help a candidate. But on this issue, Bernie is actually the only one of the remaining, say, 5 candidates who's not using the verification process we think should be law. I mean, he is allowing these unverified credit card contributions to come through, and that's disappointing to us because in other ways, and I want to balance anything I say on any candidate, I like part of his focus on big money buying things up. Now, I probably have a little different perspective as a conservative on which big money groups I think are more of a problem, and I kind of touched on one, the big, the money behind some of the transgender push and some of these other things. Personally, would be more of a concern, than the big companies that he might focus on. But I like that he's at least talking about when big money takes over instead of voters. But I just wish he could be consistent and also take this simple campaign finance step, which is verifying credit card contributions that are coming in. When he has $18 million come in from people who are unemployed, one reports said, wait, are they really? I mean, those are names we don't have or anything else. So I would just hope he'd do that. I think that would be more consistent with the rest of his message.
So he's he's getting $18 million from unemployed Americans?
Yeah, that was on the reports. And the problem there is if you're getting unverified credit card contributions and you get people checking off that they don't have an employer, then you really can't verify where a check's coming from.
So for those of us who are working, paying into the system, and then these folks are probably getting unemployment benefits, and they're spending that money to campaign against those of us who are paying their bills?
Well, and I think my question would be even harder, is that money really coming from them? I mean, any of us who work in campaigns have seen money given in other people's names lots of times. And so I think you ask a legitimate question, but I think it could also be another legitimate question, which is, wait, is someone just using names to get big money in? And as long as you have this credit card loophole, if we don't get it closed by H.R. 4177, I mean, someone could be going down a list of names of people, listing them all as unemployed and doing checks that would never be verified.
And that would be fraud, but nobody's going to pick up on the fraud.
That's right, because if you're not even going to let the bank verify the information, there's no way to take the next step. Oh, by the way, this is clearly breaking the law. You're just giving them a way to keep it all completely undisclosed and unverified, where no one can ever check on it. And the FEC has said, I think the FEC has been very forthright in saying, we will never check 200 and under contributions. We don't have the manpower. So once you know that, you know you're scot-free putting money in this way.
And you touched on gambling and some of the other things that money could be coming in. When I think foreign, I mean, it could be political interest, military interest, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Muslim Brotherhood. Those organizations could be giving money through these cards to our candidates.
And I say to people, my point is, you just don't know. I mean, every time there's an international deal, do you start to question, say, wow, that deal seemed really lopsided. Is it possible foreign money was coming in? And I've had some get on me on the left and say, oh, you're getting into conspiracy theory and all. To which I say, well, why not just pass this H.R. 4177? Then at least we'd know that money coming in was verified. And, if I am just on a conspiracy concern and none of it's true, well, then you've got a clean bill of health, at least in this money, that, hey, it's all coming from legitimate people. So it seems like an easy fix no matter which side of the issue you're on. Okay.
So let's talk super PACs. When you give to a candidate, do you have limits?
Yes, you do, and I'll talk congressional because, of course, every state has their own laws, but let's just, to keep it simple, nationally, $2,700 would be your limit.
And that's to any candidate or certain candidates, congressional?
Any congressional or presidential, and a married couple can give $5,400 as a group. There are a couple. You can give primary and general, but basically $2,700 is the limit per giver per race.
But if I were to give that to a super PAC, do I have limits?
No, and I think that is a concern. And more than the super PACs, people giving through C4s and 527s and LLCs, super PACs actually do disclose their donors. So it's unlimited, but it is disclosed. A lot of people hear the term dark money, and they think you're talking about super PACs. Actually, dark money is a way to get around disclosing your donor.
Okay, so clear that up for us. Super PAC versus dark money.
Sure. Dark money is unlimited, and I mentioned there's several kind of ways that can be given, but that's money that's never disclosed. You're giving to something that's, a 501c4 under the IRS code, which would say you don't disclose donors. I'll give you an example of this. A 501c4, not to get real in the weeds, but is allowed to spend half their money on politics. So I got a call from a reporter who'd done some great research on this, definitely left a center group, I'd say open secrets, but, fair, they do real research. And he said, look, we found 23 different groups, C4s, that are actually giving more than half their money. And I said, well, that, they should have to disclose their donors. I mean, the rule is that, you can put less than half your money into politics. You do not have to disclose your donors. It's unlimited. And when I saw, and he mentioned one conservative group that he thought was at 51%. When I looked at his report, though, 4 of the top 13 violators were Planned Parenthood chapters. St. Louis Planned Parenthood was giving over 90% of the money given to their C4 to politics. And so in essence there you've got someone just hiding their money. That's an example of dark money. That's not given to a super PAC where it's reported. That's someone who probably doesn't want their name disclosed, and so they want to say help someone win who's supportive of Planned Parenthood's policies, but they give the money through St. Louis Planned Parenthood, and the money in essence is funneled straight into campaign efforts if you're giving over 90%. So that's the kind of dark money that we think should be disclosed right off the bat. I mean, to let people hide their money that way, is breaking law. There's no enforcement right now on it.
And so are there any other groups that we would recognize right off the top?
Sure. Well, there are plenty of dark money groups that's in both the left and right. There, big chunks of money can be given through, and I think the problem here is that the money is being given to third parties, and none of it's going to the candidate, and that's where this inequity of the $2,700 limit on the candidate, but no limit on either super PACs or dark money is a problem, because the candidate now can no longer talk to the people running commercials to try to elect them. Much less, of course, they don't like the big anonymous money coming in to defeat them. And that marginalizes candidates so much. They're almost not part of their campaign, their own campaign. They're kind of being bought and sold like a can of Coke.
And do you think they really don't talk to their super PACs?
Well, the laws are pretty strict. I talked to a few people on some of the campaigns are very paranoid about it. They just say, they're so concerned they're going to get hit on it that they don't. I'm sure people break rules in any arena, but what it also does is it makes the campaign so negative. I mean, when you go in with 17 Republicans and a few Democrats at the beginning, well, a super PAC is, let's just say a super PAC is called people who really, really love Iowa. I mean, it's a completely made-up group. No Iowans are in it. But they form, and they say, gosh, my person is candidate A.
John, we're going to have to go to break.
Okay,
so we'll get again. Listeners, we always seem to catch you right in the middle, so you stay tuned. Right after these messages, 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician, that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
I'm talking with John Pudner, takeback.org. Take Back Our Republic is the name of the group. Takeback.org. You can find them online. Several great articles they've given me. I will put the links on the Truth for Our Time Facebook page. We'll also, in time, get the script up on the show. I'm not very good at that, I admit it, but I'll get it up on tamarascott.com. And thank you for listening. For those of you who may want to call in, I haven't given out the phone number, 515-244-0077 if you want to call in with your own question. Thank you for listening if you're on the 99.3 Sunday noon show. If you ever want to see us live, it's 10 a.m. on Fridays when we do the show in studio, and you're welcome to join us at webcast1live.com, webcast1live.com. And if you're online, you can then see along when Chris is so good to pop something up there on the screen when I give him no notice. John, you had just started telling us a scenario about Iowa, so I want to let you go back to that, and then I want to add something about Planned Parenthood here in Iowa.
Sure. One question, of course, everyone gets in politics is why are campaigns so negative now? And that's where I'd go with this example. The problem is you can form a dark money group that does not have to report various ways. And I was just calling a hypothetical people who really, really love Iowa. Let's just make believe that's the group.
There should be lots of those groups who really love Iowa.
Right. Only in this case, none of these people live in Iowa. They've just formed this group to have a good name. They want to run non-commercials, etc. And what they do is they just start attacking candidate A because they want candidate B to win. Well, the problem is candidate A and candidate B, if this were a congressional race, can only raise $2,700 at a time. People who really, really love Iowa but aren't really from Iowa, we can take any huge chunk from any one person to try to defeat a candidate or organization. The problem is when the candidates had the money, then you had to be really careful when you attacked because you certainly didn't want to do something inaccurate. And if candidate B said, well, candidate A is a lousy person who's done this, that, and the other, and it turned out not to be true, well, candidate B would look bad and probably lose the election. The problem now with a $2,700 limit for direct giving, but unlimited to this kind of make-believe group, is they don't care if anyone likes their group after the election. They go scorched earth. They tell you candidate A is a terrible person who uses drugs and everything else if they want. I mean, there's just no accountability, and people go out and say, well, gosh, I've got my concerns about candidate A now. Their negatives go up. And, yeah, I don't like this group attacking them either, but who cares? The group isn't on the ballot. So it's this, all the money going to the third parties is the big problem. Now, a lot of these races, only 15% of the money is actually spent by the candidates. There's no accountability. And one thing we've proposed is, look, we do want more disclosure of this dark money, but let's do it as a package where you also say that $2,700 limit can go up. So there's not this incentive that, well, I can only give $2,700 to the candidate, but I can give $100,000 to this group to attack the other candidate. Let's take away that incentive and say, okay, you can give that money to the third group, but it's going to be disclosed that you're giving in case you're an out-of-state big influencer who doesn't share our values. But you can also give more than $2,700 to candidates. They can run a real campaign. So that would be our proposed compromise on this issue.
So in the last, was it 2014, $850 million spent at the state level, political broadcast ads on TV. 25 million of that, or about 4%, came from groups that don't have to disclose their donors. So according to the analysis, and this is from one of the articles you sent me, the data from the advertising tracking, that's twice as much in 2010. So I can't imagine what we're looking at for 2016. It just changes the landscape of the election. And as you say, the credibility is gone. There's really no accountability of what someone says or doesn't say, even if it's not negative. if it's just giving the wrong interpretation and the wrong ideas, it's greatly impacting our elections here in the U.S. That's a concern for me.
Well, and I think if you look, there are several candidates right now with unfavorables over 50%. Yeah, that's never happened in the past unless you had some absolute scandal that, I mean, it's just never happened. And yet, almost all the front runners now are over 50%, and it's because of this process. It's because all the money's going third party to attack, with no accountability. And so no matter which candidate you like or don't like, look at them, they're all over 50% unfavorable now. And how do you have any credibility if both nominees from this process every cycle are going to come out with negatives of 55, 60% before you even get to voting between the two of them?
And so I told our listeners I'd come back to Planned Parenthood. I talked to one of the representatives last night. That was the bill that was holding them up. You know, we have the idea right here in Iowa. We have 210 clinics that are already eligible for the same dollars, and they already provide the services for women, better services. When I say better, I mean whole, more comprehensive services. They're more located, 210 clinics, much more located. That number is greater than the Planned Parenthood clinics anyway, so they're easier for low-income folks to get to. They do all the services that Planned Parenthood does, plus more, because they actually do screenings. They have their whole health clinics. My point to you, listeners, is that this would be a better use of your money. If you're really pro-women, it'd be a better use of your money, other than you just want to support Planned Parenthood, who is pretty much just an abortion facility. Any of the other things they say they do are minimal, absolutely minimal, in spite of what Donald Trump may think. So this is the bill that's holding them up right now in the budget, from what I understand, unless they figured it out in the early hours of the morning. Here's the deal: Planned Parenthood, as John was saying, turns around and gives those money to candidates. So what you're seeing is the Democrats in the state are protecting their buddies rather than worrying about the health of the women. So there's another one. You can talk to your legislators this week. If they have coffees in your communities, they'll be at home over the weekend. Talk to your legislators, state, House legislators, House and senators both, and let them know you don't want any tax dollars funding Planned Parenthood in the state of Iowa. None, zip, zero, nada, none. Because you care about women's health. You want it to go to the other clinics that are more aptly able to care for women. All right, John, I'm sorry, I just had to take that little bit out right there. I'm looking at the article Dark Money in Politics. You talk about Rhode Island, and you just brought up that same scenario where voters were going to choose a governor in 2014, but an Ohio group transferred $730,000 from secret donors to another Ohio organization, and they were aimed at defeating the candidate who actually did win. But your point is 600 miles away. Why do they care? Same thing happened in Arkansas and Illinois, sending money to those groups. This is the point. You have outside influence even across state lines.
That's right. I think that's where this dependency on money has become such a problem, anonymous money. I mean, we've got a republic set up, and that's why our title, Take Back Our Republic, was chosen. You know, you're not going to have a republic if all these decisions are being made from out-of-state big donors and not by the people to reflect their will. And again, I think you saw it with the religious liberty bills. I mean, you know, the calls in Indiana and Arkansas, you know, which are very socially conservative states and, you know, naturally seem to be very supportive of religious liberty laws, but a couple of calls from CEOs under pressure from different outside groups and quickly had governors saying, oh, I'm not going to sign this. And so it's the same thing. It's not only the elections, it then carries on into how decisions are made once you're in office. So I think we need to address this, and I think conservatives should be just as concerned about big money dominating as progressives are.
And so candidates can't have communication with super PACs, but they can with dark money.
Well, they can't really. But here's the problem: it's not that the candidate's being given a carrot; it's that they're being given a stick. So what happens is someone with access to dark money or super PAC walks in to a governor or to a member of Congress and says, gosh, we need this one little thing done, and we've got some groups who are concerned it's not being done, and you can pick the current bathroom debate or anything else. But, and by the way, we spent millions to defeat candidates who disagree with us, just so you know, and then they leave. So it's not the corruption in the old, hey, I'll drop $1 million in a bank account if you do what I think. I don't think we have any or much of that, certainly. It's the opposite. It's the big money's being used just to threaten these officials, and that's where the influence is coming in.
And we're going to talk about this more when we come back from this upcoming break as well, because we haven't even gotten into between unions and corporations and the fact that they could be influencing folks who could send a business or contracts their way. And so it's still, even if it's not the impact in the election, it's an impact in government and tax dollars coming their way again. So stay tuned with us. I'm talking with John Pudner, takeback.org. You're listening to Tamara Scott with Truth for Our Time on 99.3 FM, and Webcast One Live Studios is where we broadcast from 10 a.m. live on Fridays. Thank you so much. Stay tuned.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
And I'm talking with John Pudner. John, Pudner, is with Take Back Our Republic, takeback.org. John, if folks want to get a hold of you, get more information, how do they do that?
Sure. The easiest is just to go to takeback.org and sign up for updates, but certainly John P. at takeback.org, just first name, last initial. It would be easier than remembering Pudner, just John P. And then you can always call at 404-606-3163 anytime.
Give that number to us again.
Sure. 404-606-3163.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And so we were just talking about some of the things happening here in Iowa, and one of the articles you have, Dark Money in Politics Quickly Growing, by Jeff Mulvihill, the Associated Press. This is back in January, before we'd had the caucus. This one kind of outlines, folks, if you want it, I will get it up on the Truth for Our Time Facebook page later today. This one outlines the super PACs and how they zapped the attacks that they put on each other. No, maybe this is, maybe that's the New York Times one. I'll put that one up as well, and I'll put it on there. It talks about the bundlers. Tell me about bundlers. Are they something we should worry about?
Well, bundlers have been around for a while, and there was some concern that bundlers had too much influence, because a bundler is someone who basically gets a bunch of people to contribute and then presents it all. So maybe at an event or so, say a bundler might have raised $100 million for a presidential candidate if they're really big, and that would be obviously a whole bunch of people giving money, or it could be smaller. The interesting thing is, we were hearing that some bundlers really liked what we were doing, because they were feeling like at least what they were doing took some effort to collect people and get them talking and everything else, as opposed to just someone with a big hedge fund or something writing one huge monster check, and that being the only person that mattered to a candidate. So bundlers are interesting. They used to be thought of as sort of the bad guy for old campaign finance fights years ago, but I think some of them are getting fed up with the system too.
And folks, again, John kind of touched on it. Why you are noticing that ads are more negative than ever and people seem to be more cynical about the whole thing is that I think, John, it's spurring from this 2010 Citizens United ruling. And I think many hailed that decision as a wonderful freedom liberty issue in allowing corporations and such to give money. Is that the same decision?
Yeah, I do have real concerns about that decision. Now, of course, some just say that was just free speech. They were reaffirming free speech. But one thing people don't notice is Citizens United, the justices assumed all this money would be disclosed. I mean, that's very clear in what they said. And they said, well, there'll be all this money, but people will know who are giving it, and then they can vote against them. And that has not happened. People have taken the no limits to have just a few, families and groups dominating the political scene, but they found ways to do it without disclosing it. So I think what's happened, while it was set in motion by Citizens United, actually goes way beyond what the judges thought would happen and past the check and balance they thought was there in disclosure.
And Anthony Kennedy wrote, prompt disclosure of expenditures can provide shareholders and citizens with the information needed to hold corporations and elected officials accountable for their positions and supporters, which I think is a great idea. Was he on this dissenting or the majority opinion?
He was majority, and again, that's the part that hasn't happened. So the things they wrote that they assumed were happening they weren't saying you had to have disclosure. They were just assuming you had it, and that's why it was okay to take off all these limits. So he's on the majority position, but what he said there has not happened. Just the opposite has.
And Scott Walker signed a bill, January this year, that blurred the lines between the activity of a candidate and groups?
Yes, and that's a tough one because, again, we need to be nonpartisan and go after these. I don't like that Wisconsin law, and I was I went through school with Scott Walker. I mean, I was a big fan of his. Now he's not a candidate, I can say. I mean, he would have been my vote. But that law I didn't like. I know why they enacted it. They felt like there'd been some witch hunts going after some donors, and I understand that. But I think what they did was bad. I mean, they basically now set up a system where no laws can be enforced and based on campaign finance, and basically, the third party groups and candidates can kind of work together. But I think that's the wrong direction they went in. So we have to be equal. We have to go after friends and enemies from past lives equally.
Justice is justice.
That was a bad law.
Yeah, justice is justice.
That's right.
And so one of the concerns with this is that what we're talking about, this political funding and the shift, and is that. Well, some people feel like this allows us to compete with the union money that's always there. But in one of the articles I read that you sent me was that now you're giving money to candidates who can impact where contracts go in the government. And it could come right back to these people to benefit them.
Yeah, that's a real concern. Right now, you've got 25 government contractors getting $177 billion a year in your tax money. And government contractors are also supposed to be prohibited from giving to political campaigns for just that reason. We don't want people trading political contributions for your tax money. That's one of the reasons we have a big deficit, is everyone's giving money to their donors, basically, but it's your tax money they're giving away. And so we've asked one simple thing here. This president obviously likes executive orders, and I would, personally disagree with most of what he signed. But this would be a perfect case. There's an executive order we understand has been drafted for months. It clarifies that any government contractor has to disclose any money they're giving, whether it be through a third party like the chamber, or this could be union money. But we don't want someone to feel like, hey, I got a great investment, I'll spend $20 million on politics, and oh good, I'm getting $20 billion in taxpayer money back. We can't have that go undisclosed. We need people to see how that money's flowing and prohibit that money given from contractors.
So there's the one executive order we would like the president to sign.
That's right.
And he will probably never sign it.
That's right.
And so in that, I just want to make sure I have that correct. 25 companies are getting $177 billion of our tax dollars.
That's right.
Planned Parenthood would be one of those, correct? They would be a contractual government contractor?
No, I don't believe so. I'd have to look at the list. These would be contracts on big things, whether it be a defense contract or roads, or I don't think they would fall to this category.
But you've still got government deciding who the winners and the losers are with your tax dollars, and this is what we've got to stop. Your tax dollars could be funding your own competitors. That's what's
right.
got to stop. It goes into the public-private partnerships. That's got to stop. So, John, we are coming down out of time here, and I didn't even get to ask you about the governor of Virginia now allowing 250 felons to vote.
Well, and that's probably one I really, as a take-back, whatever my personal strong feelings on that are, as take-back, we do have to stay focused on money and politics specifically, so that issue would be tangential. So I'll have to let you take that up with another guest.
I get it, but I want our listeners to just understand, here you try and do things in your own state, and when another state does something that can influence your elections, that will greatly impact a presidential election. The money that happens in other states, the laws that are happening in other states that can impact the presidential election, makes me think there's something we ought to be doing about that. And yet we all love our 10th Amendment and our states' rights. So that's one of those rubs we've got to figure out a solution to. John, anything in passing as you leave our guests?
No, we're looking forward to getting a chapter going there. We know you had a presidential to deal with, so we held off in Iowa. We formed chapters in 31 other states, but obviously Iowa is a key. So any of your listeners that are interested, we definitely want to get a meeting going there, get a chapter going, and really try to work a state-specific effort.
Right.
So we'd love to have help.
John Pudner has been my guest. Takeback.org if you want more information. Money. We've got to stop foreign money in American politics, and we've got to know what money is exchanging in politics. I think it's only fair. You've been informed. Now be encouraged. Take time to make a difference. Make a difference in your school, the VA hospital, your family most of all. Love your children, but never be discouraged.